We hear an adult Samus slowly breathing in and out. As she opens her eyes, 10 years later flashes across the bottom. She holds a Federation blaster at the ready before jumping out and shooting 2 space pirates. Ducking back into cover, Samus glances over her shoulder to see the rest of the pirates still looking for her. A female voice then comes over the comms, warning her about a pirate in her blind spot. Turning quickly, Samus just barely sees it as a shot rings out and the pirate lifelessly crumples to the ground. She thanks Anthony Higgs as he reaches out a hand and pulls her to her feet. Together, they push forward through the rocky terrain while keeping an eye out for any more enemies. As they dispatch more pirates, Samus tries to contact the woman from before, but all she gets is static. Anthony warns her to stay calm, but Samus calls her name, Ellen, more desperately. She looks to her wrist to locate Ellen's position, then takes off with Anthony calling after her. Samus ignores him as she tucks her pistol back in its holster and an arm cannon forms around her right arm. Samus cuts through the pirates with ease, but a new male voice gets on the comms.
Turn back, Aran. Your orders were to stick with Higgs. Hardy can handle herself.
She ignores him as she finally reaches Ellen's position. There, she sees her friend on the ground as pirates circle around her. Samus leaps into action, blasting 2 of them before grabbing the third and using it as a shield against the others. She takes out the rest before kicking the remaining pirate to the ground. Breathing heavily, she reaches her hand out to Ellen, but is surprised as her friend angrily slaps it away. Ellen calls her an idiot as she picks herself up perfectly fine. The rocky terrain and the bodies of the pirates begin to digitize away as the simulation ends. Federation Homeworld flashes across the screen as Ellen continues to chew out Samus, telling her that she had it under control. She tells Samus to step back before hitting a switch that was tucked into her sleeve. A massive electric field burst out. With just a few more steps, they would have been fried.
Look, I'm sorry, but you don't know the pirates like I do. They don't waste time with prisoners. They are ruthless and kill anything in their way. There's no guarantee this trap would have worked.
I don't need to be rescued, Samus. You don't need to protect me. In every one of these training simulations, not once have the pirates got me. Not once!
Simulations aren't the same.
Oh, that's so. Then why did your butt need saving by Anthony if you're so good?
Anthony arrives and tries to step between them, urging Ellen to calm down. Samus can only stay quiet as the male voice on the comms comes in. Their squad leader, Ian Malkovich. They all immediately stand at attention, but Ian sighs and tells them to be at ease.
Every time, Samus. Every time you think someone's in trouble or something's wrong, you have to step in. Ellen's trap was approved by the Federation and designed to counter situations like what she was in. These simulations aren't so we can do whatever we want. We can only work within the knowns and guidelines set by our leaders.
Samus again tries to argue, urging him that there was no way for her to know exactly what situation Ellen was in. All she can do is save the people that she can and never leave anyone behind. She doesn't care if the Federation approves or not. Ian shakes his head, admitting that the test was a success, but only because Samus had the arm cannon. She again tries to argue about its usefulness, but Ian cuts her off. His older brother, Adam, wants to see her. Samus silently walks out of the room as the words of Grey Voice echo inside her head.
A Chozo warrior's one duty is the safety of all. That includes themselves. This doesn't mean that everyone can be saved, but we must always try.
She closes her eyes and breathes in. When she opens them, she's on another planet. Zebes, 6 years ago, flashes across the screen. Grey Voice is saying those exact words as a 14-year-old Samus is training with him. She's wearing the Zero suit, but is only equipped with the paralyzer gun. He explains that firepower is important, but knowing how to fight when you're not the most powerful thing in the room is essential. He snaps his fingers as several mechs head toward her, but she manages to avoid their shots and disable them.
Excellent, Samus. Well done indeed. You have all but mastered the Zero suit and paralyzer. Now, let's see how you handle strength. Materialize your power suit.
Samus groans but closes her eyes to focus. The arm cannon forms around her right arm while the suit begins to materialize. But just as it's about to become complete, it phases out completely. Samus collapses to the ground, exhausted.
I'm sorry. It's too much. It's still too much.
Grey Voice pats her shoulder as he sits down next to her. He tells her not to worry, but still she apologizes. He sits silently for a moment, listening to her heavy breathing, before telling a story. The development of the power suit was done by a lone Chozo named Drin. He believed that the key to strength was adaptability, to never shun a new idea and instead find ways to integrate that idea into their lives, hence the modular nature of the power suit. Even just the arm cannon can be versatile, whether firing concentrated energy blasts or concussive missiles with a twist of the wrist. The power suit itself can be entered like traditional Federation armor, or it can be materialized at a moment's notice, and that's to say nothing of its advanced morph ball and charge beam features. Samus shudders at the mention of the morph ball, making Grey Voice chuckle.
The idea of all this is simply to allow its wearer to take on whatever obstacles lie in their path. But the key to all of it is the mental connection it has to its wearer. It may be bonded to your DNA, but until you accept the past, it will never be yours, not fully.
I do accept the past, though. How could I not when it's all I ever think about? My parents are dead. Ridley killed everyone I ever cared about. And now I'm completely alone.
She pauses and turns away from Grey Voice.
I'm sorry. I know you've all done so much for me. I wouldn't be alive if it weren't for you, but I feel like I need to get out there. How can I protect anyone when I'm stuck on Zebes? Joining the Federation is the only way to make that happen.
Grey Voice pats her shoulder again, comforting her.
I understand. The Federation has its own problems. You're not ready for that world, not yet. Until then, have patience. Now, let's try again.
As Grey Voice talks, the camera pans closer to Samus's eyes as she looks determined and fierce. She blinks and suddenly she's in the office of Adam Malkovich, her commanding officer, as he urges her to have patience. Samus insists that she does, but why should she ignore someone in trouble?
It's not about saving someone or not. It's about respecting your fellow soldiers. Ellen had a plan. Trust her to execute that plan.
How am I supposed to know the plan when her comms go silent? I had a decision to make. I made it. And we still won.
Adam maintains his composure and reminds her.
The entire point of the Galactic Federation is peace and order throughout the galaxy, something that is only obtainable through cooperation. Without this cooperation and the following of rules, then what's the point of keeping order?
Samus only laughs, stating that's just repeating the same lines from the Federation's training program. Bureaucracy wasn't going to save anyone. She knew that firsthand. Adam simply avoids the implication and asks why she's wearing the Zero suit again. He can clearly see it where her arm cannon had formed, ripping her training suit. She tries to cover it, but sighs and asks why they wouldn't use such a powerful tool. Adam reminds her that it was a practice exercise. Someone could have been seriously hurt. Samus tries to object again, but Adam cuts her off with a single word. Lady.
That's what you are, aren't you, Samus? A lady, convinced she knows best, and that we should all bend to her whims.
He looks as if he'll continue on, but stops himself. Instead, he asks if she has any objections before sending her out of the room. Samus tightens her fist as she leaves and is about to punch the opposite wall when she hears Ellen's voice.
Do you really want to deal with another lecture? Come on, let's take a walk.
As they walk, Ellen apologizes for getting mad. Samus says she knows Ellen is strong, but can't help herself. If it's possible for her to save someone, she's going to do it. She couldn't forgive herself otherwise. As they talk, they see a bounty hunter delivering his bounty. Ellen tells Samus that it's Sylux, a well-renowned and brutal hunter. Samus silently watches the transaction before asking Ellen who bounty hunters report to. Ellen explains that hunters technically report to the Federation as that's how they get paid, but the methods used are up to them. As long as a mission is accomplished, the Federation is satisfied. Samus scoffs at the idea when Federation politicians and bureaucrats enforce strict rules on their own soldiers. Nothing gets done effectively. No wonder they rely on hunters. At least they have the freedom to get the job done.
You don't want to be a hunter, Samus. They work alone. It's a hard, cruel life.
Samus only laughs at that as the two reach the roof of the Federation training facility and look out over the setting sun. She absently watches the creatures flying in the sky, the different alien races milling about below, the mix of so many cultures. There's so many people, and yet she curls up, resting her chin on her knees. She glances at Ellen, who is lying down with her eyes closed. Samus shakily reaches toward her shoulder, but stops before it's even halfway there. She clenches her fist, brings it close to her chest, and wipes away the tears that were starting to form with the other hand. When Ellen opens her eyes at Samus' sniffles, Samus says,
I'm the last, you know. The last survivor of K2L. The last of the Chozo. The last to use their power suit. How do you move on? Knowing you're all alone. How do you continue to live when everything good in your life has been stolen? Even when I try to save people, they tell me I'm wrong. But I want to fight for their peace. No more children should have to suffer what I have. Someday, I'll put an end to the space pirates. I promise.
Ellen smiles gently and takes her hand, assuring her that she's not alone. Samus grips it tight and holds on to it. They had been friends ever since she first arrived at the Federation, but she never opened up. Ellen knew what happened to her parents and knew that she was raised by the last of the Chozo, but beyond that, Samus had stayed quiet. Maybe it was time to tell her more. Samus begins to talk as the camera again slowly zooms in on her eyes. It focuses on her pupils before pulling back out, revealing that we're now on Zebes, 5 years ago. Samus is finally in the full power suit as she trains with Grey Voice. He watches from nearby as mechs close in on her. She's able to dodge their shots before disabling them with her arm cannon. She's about to give a confident thumbs up to Grey Voice when one of the mechs reactivate and slam her against a nearby rock. Samus is fine, but the power suit destabilizes and the mechs stop. The Elder suddenly appears next to Grey Voice, chuckling. He thinks she's making fine progress, but it's never good to relax too much in enemy territory. He then asks how she's handling her suit's morph ball and charge beam abilities.
She's not. She's afraid of the morph ball.
Of course I am. How can I even imagine curling into a ball that tiny? Every bone in my body will be crushed.
The Elder laughs heartily as he summons Springwind. The young Chozo complains he's getting too old for this as his power suit forms around him. The suit then curls into a ball much smaller than his entire body, only up to Samus's knees.
See? That's weird. That's just too weird. I can't do it. You say there's a pocket space inside the suit? I say you're out to kill me.
How many times must I repeat it? The body becomes pure energy within the suit. Your bones will be perfectly fine. This is an essential tool for navigating tight corridors and dodging incoming enemies. You could have avoided the training mech if you were willing to do this. I know you saw it coming.
Springwind uncurls from the morph ball and adds in that it isn't the tiny space that's weird. It's seeing everywhere around you at once. The Elder smiles and asks her about her progress with the charge beam. Samus nervously shifts in place as the Elder tells her to take heart. The charge beam is just as vital a tool as the morph ball, allowing the wielder to channel their own stamina through the power suit to create a large blast. A normal power shot is more potent than most Federation weaponry, but few things can withstand the charge beam. He assures her that all of this will come naturally in time.
Patience, right?
They tell her to get some rest, but she leaves to explore Zebes. She enjoys the beauty of the dense woods and crystal clear waters of Brinstar, which eventually leads to the natural hot springs near the mountains of Norfair. The animals are unafraid as she walks amongst them until the sun begins to set. Sitting down, Samus notices a shooting star flitting across the sky. She smiles peacefully, until it heads toward the planet, creating a huge explosion that kicks up debris and sends her hurtling back against a nearby tree. She gets to her feet and begins making her way to the Chozo, materializing her arm cannon and taking down space pirates that are dropping in. She finds Grey Voice and Springwind on either side of the Elder, fending off the pirates in the middle of a massive crater. Samus slides down into the crater, hoping to save her family. All of them are bloodied, but as soon as they see Samus, they order her to their ship's life pod.
I won't leave you! What about all the lessons? How a Chozo warrior's duty is the survival of all? I won't let this happen again!
Samus, Let free old men protect the last shining light this universe has for us. Please, please be our legacy. Now go!
Samus begins to cry as Springwind takes out more incoming space pirates. The Elder gently pats the top of her head as Grey Voice pushes her in the direction of the ship's life pod, just outside of the crater. She finally starts to move, scrambling out of the crater as an immense figure drops from the pirate ship and lands on the opposite side of her. The ground trembles under its weight, causing Samus to lose balance. But as she looks back, she spots Ridley perched on the large figure's shoulder.
The last of the Chozo. Finally. I've spent years hunting for this planet, and this is all that's left. Pathetic. How fitting it is that you're undone by your own technology. Mother Brain is the boon we've needed for ages. So much progress in so little time. Even Kraid here was created by her. But there's one piece of information that you kept from her, yet shared with the Federation. Where is the Metroid homeworld?
Samus is unable to hear anymore as she reaches the ship and accesses the escape pod. Hopefully it would be small enough to escape their attention. Suddenly, a scream rips through the air. Scrambling to the window, she can see the broken body of Springwind as Kraid lifts his arm.
Don't resist! Tell them, please! Please don't die!
She fights back tears as Grey Voice catches her eye. A small smile crosses his face, and she knows exactly what he plans. She shakes her head, but despite her pleas, he launches the pod with his suit. Samus screams in utter frustration as she takes off into space. Far below, she can just barely make out Grey Voice unleashing a charge beam directly at Ridley. However, it's easily blocked by Kraid. Samus's palms begin to bleed, her fists are clenched so tightly as a small explosion engulfs the surface of the planet. The Chozo chose extinction and saving her over their own survival. Her tears begin to flow as the camera pans outside of the life pod and into space before transitioning back to her own pupil, where she's talking to Ellen.
The rest you've heard. The Federation found me adrift in space. A lost child curled into a ball and crying uncontrollably. Twice now, my family has been killed. And despite their sacrifice, Ridley and the pirates are still thriving. It's enough to make you think you're meant to be alone.
Ellen says nothing but hugs her tightly. Samus pats her hand as she looks toward the sky. The camera follows her view, but as it returns to the ground, it pans past her to Adam Malkovich, who's looking at the same sky from his office. Behind him, a recording is running showing Samus when she first arrived on the Federation homeworld. Her face is streaked with tears, her eyes devastated and hollow. Any attempt to engage with her is met with anger, and she's reclusive otherwise. The days pass on the recordings until Adam himself arrives to speak with her. They both sit quietly for a while, not even looking at each other. Finally, Adam breaks the silence by asking if he can tell her a story, which she quietly accepts. He recounts his own encounter with the space pirates and how they murdered his parents. All he was able to save was his younger brother. Samus stays quiet for a long time while Adam waits patiently. Samus finally says that she hates being alone. Adam assures her that with the Federation, she won't be. Ian enters, apologizing for Samus's behavior, but Adam tells him not to worry. He turns off the old recordings and tiredly sits in his chair.
The problem is, she's brilliant. She has the talent, the drive, even the decision-making skills. If today was a real skirmish, she would have saved Ellen's life. The pirates only take useful prisoners, and even then, it's never a guarantee.
But you know the Federation. Protocol needs to be followed. We can't forget that.
Protocol needs to be followed, yet they hire hunters to deal with major problems and get around their own red tape. It feels like we've been gifted this perfect knife from the Chozo. They honed her, taught her the battle tactics she needed to know. All we're doing is dulling that edge.
Maybe, but she would have been lost without you, Adam. You're the one who rescued her.
Adam only nods before pulling up a file. He has a mission for Ian. Weeks pass, and the Federation base is abuzz with talk as Samus walks down the street. She doesn't understand why until reaching a large screen in the center of the city. The space pirates have attacked a research vessel and slaughtered everyone on board, taking the cargo for themselves. Samus immediately realizes it's the same vessel Ian was assigned to protect and rushes to Adam's office. Bursting in, she demands,
"What happened? How did Ian die?"
Adam is sitting away from her, his voice calm and steady. Ian's mission was to guard the Metroids secured from their home planet, a highly kept secret that the last of the Chozo entrusted the Federation. They wanted some good to come from this creature, but somehow the pirates knew of the ship's purpose and attacked. 24 Metroids were secured at great cost. Ian sacrificed himself to destroy half. The rest are in the space pirates' hands. Samus urges that the Federation use their full force to get them back, to finally take the fight to Zebes and stop Ridley, to avenge Ian. Adam finally loses his quiet demeanor and explodes.
Don't you think I know that? I would gladly bring the full fury of the Federation military and wipe them from existence if I could, but I can't. The plan has already been decided. Our usual tactic. A small Federation task force will be infiltrating and stealthily taking back the Metroids while bounty hunters distract them.
Samus is left stunned at Adam's outburst and hangs her head. She then quietly asks to be part of the task force, but Adam refuses. The team has already been chosen, with Ellen insisting to be part of it and leaving Samus in the dark. Samus goes pale hearing this.
"I'm going after them."
You won't. I'm putting a stop to that idea right here and now.
"I'm going. Any objections, sir?"
Adam can only hang his head in despair as Samus leaves. She grabs some supplies before stealing a Federation ship. The power suit digitizes around her with the last piece forming the visor. Behind it, we see her face, hard and determined.